to your Daily 5 for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. What a pair of reviews do I have for you this week. Wow. I would never have guessed that this was going to be the way these two reviews would work. I really didn't even intend to review two movies this week. That was not the original plan. But I watched a movie from 1980, I believe, called Forbidden Zone that I've heard of for a while. I heard it was a bizarre art house, John Waters musical type of number from the Elfman Brothers that features, I believe, what is the first named appearance of Oingo Boingo, the band, except they were called the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo in this movie. And it's called Forbidden Zone. Now, it's kind of easy to review Forbidden Zone. But the second movie is where this really gets weird. So the movie was directed and written by, actually I know it was written. I'm not sure if it was directed. I don't think it was directed. I think it was written by an individual named Matthew Bright, who also wrote the movie I'm going to review tomorrow. And that's where things get really interesting. And boy, I'm going to have a lot to say about this on Friday. But Forbidden Zone is fairly easy to review. It is a deeply weird and very bizarre art house film, but it is clearly the product of creative weirdos who just wanted to make a psychotic, drug-induced, I'm sure, film where they did a number of different little scenarios and vignettes, and then they stapled on a very loose shell story that ties it all together. The plot, such as it is that there's a house that has a basement that goes to the sixth dimension where there is a king and a queen who rule over a very demented realm. Also, Satan is there, and he has people that work for him. I don't really know what the connection is there, but it doesn't really matter. And we just get sequences. That's all it is. There is really no plot to follow. It is just probably a bunch of creative wackadoo types, my type of people, who decided to just film things and throw them into a movie with musical numbers. So it's technically a musical, and there's some really catchy music in it, I should say. But it really is just a series of bizarre scenes that are loosely tied together in the most threadbare way. It's weird accents. There's some elements that haven't aged well, particularly two instances of blackface, which have been fixed in the color version. So if you get the colorized version, which the director authorized, so clearly they knew at least later, whether they knew it at the time and just ignored it, or if they really didn't understand how bad it is to have blackface in the movie, whatever it is, it has been corrected in the later version. Now, I watched the black and white one, but I would actually be curious to see this in color, and I probably will watch it, just not right now, because I've had a real overload this week in terms of movies. But I think the color version will probably serve the material better anyway, because this feels like a movie that should be in really bright, weird color. Works fine in black and white, but I think color will actually benefit this movie tremendously. But I watched the black and white one, so yeah, there's blackface. There is a lot of use of I can't think of the word. It's a gay slur, but is specifically, I cannot think of, a homophobic slur that starts with an F. You know the word I'm talking about. So that's used quite liberally, so just be aware going into this that that's there. Otherwise, if you are looking for something that feels like a cross between John Waters and almost like a Rocky Horror type of movie, then Forbidden Zone is exactly that. It is so out there that it will either immediately alienate you, or it will be something where you just kind of watch it and let it wash over you. Now, for me, the latter was what it did. I really had a good time with this movie because I very quickly figured out that there was no point in really trying to follow it as a movie, but instead just to see what the next weird thing that was going to happen was going to be. And I was never really let down because it just kept getting stranger and stranger. So it's a really interesting movie. I can't say I'd recommend it to everybody, but if my analogy of John Waters and Rocky Horror crossed together is interesting to you, you will probably have a really good time with it. If that sounds like the worst thing you would ever watch in your life, don't even bother. It's on YouTube in multiple versions with the color version, the black and white version, so you can find it very easily. Like I said, you know who you are if you're interested in this film, and if it is interesting to you, then I think you're going to enjoy it. Forbidden Zone 1980, boy, it's something. Later.